Do not buy Palantir stock. I'm serious. A lot of people have no business buying Palantir stock. You really need to meet 3 main criteria in order to really be a Palantir shareholder. And if I'm being totally honest, this pretty much relates to every single stock in the stock market, but specifically a company like Palantir and a company like NVIDIA and a company like Tesla. I could keep going with a very long list of names, but I'll just leave it right there for now. We're gonna get into who should and who should not buy Palantir stock in this video. But before we get into all that, first, I'm Austin. I'm a co-owner of cloudmusicsuite.com, and I'm a stock market investor, and definitely most importantly for this video, I'm a Palantir shareholder. I've been a Palantir shareholder since about 2 months after they went public through their DPO. The channel's just underneath the 1900 subscriber mark. If you're one of those people and you're back, thank you so much for being back. I appreciate you in a major way. If you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and click that button and drop a like for me as I thank you for doing those 2 things. Here's a picture of both my cats, Millie and Luna. Millie's the gray one, Luna's the brown one. They thank you for subscribing. Okay, there's a lot of people out there that have bought Palantir stock in the last few months, and I would bet inevitably a lot of them have actually sold. We saw Palantir reach about $20 a share, and now as of recording this video, it's all the way back down to $14 a share. So some people that bought at that $20 range are already down like $6 a share, which is somewhere around a 30% drawdown. So in order to be a buyer of Palantir stock, in order to not get shaken out when the stock drops just a little bit, first and most important thing is that you have to be knowledgeable about the business model. I'm not just talking about the balance sheet. I'm not just talking about the cash flow statement. I'm not just talking about the revenue growth, but I'm talking about the actual products, the actual business model, the actual company itself. You have to be knowledgeable on this. And let me be clear, this goes for every single stock in the stock market. But here's the difference. Palantir business model is not an easy one to understand unless you're fully entrenched into the software space and the AI space. Some companies are way easier to understand than others. Let's use Costco as an example. Costco is a great stock that's performed amazingly over the last decade. Extremely easy business model to understand. It's a subscription model because they sell their memberships and you don't even have to go into the store for Costco to make money off you. And then of course they have their stores where they sell food and literally anything you could ever imagine that you might need for your house. That's what Costco sells. Super easy to understand that. It's easy to understand the moat around Costco, and the business model is not that complicated. Palantir, on the other hand, very, very different. I spent about 2 months, actually a little bit more than that, because before the company went public, I was researching the company. I was trying to figure out what the heck is Palantir? Is there even any opportunity here? And the more and more I dove into the company, the more attracted I got to the business model, the more attracted I got to the moat that I could see around Palantir for them to stay the leader in their space and capitalize upon the decision making that's going to come from the platforms that they have. So right now they've got 4 different software platforms, and whenever I first bought the company, they only had 3 different software platforms. They've got the AIP, the artificial intelligence platform. They've got Foundry, which is mostly their government product. They've got Gotham, which is mostly their commercial product, and they've got Apollo, which is really computing at the edge, being able to employ this in any environment, from the battlefield to space to the bottom of the ocean. All of their products are trying to help an enterprise or a corporation make the best decision with the least amount of time needed in order to make that best decision. So they take all the data points, data aggregation, data integration onto the software platform, and then the software platform will basically spit out different scenarios and probable outcomes based on those scenarios. Very, very powerful stuff. I'm going to stop rambling on it, but my point is what you've got to do in order to wrap your head around these products and how the company sells these products and how the company implements these products with different governments, with different organizations, with different corporations. That takes a lot more work than just figuring out a business model like Costco, figuring out a business model like Coca-Cola. So if you're not going to sit there and watch demo videos, if you're not going to sit there and listen to the conference call, if you're not going to sit there and listen to the investor day, dive into all the investor presentations, watch all the videos on new product launches, how to use the product, then it's going to be really hard for you to actually construct a real scenario where you fully understand the business model and you can see the moat that Palantir has around it. And that's obviously on top of still making sure you understand where the balance sheet's at, still making sure you understand where the EPS is at, still making sure you understand where the revenue growth is at. So unless you're willing to spend a considerable amount of time researching Palantir, I think it is a bad idea to buy the stock. The most amount of losses that I see from people in the stock market is when they buy a stock that they don't know anything about. Oftentimes, these are tech stocks. Tech stocks normally take a little bit longer for people to wrap their head around because the business models are more complicated. So please don't buy Palantir shares if you're not knowledgeable about the business and you're not going to continue to keep your knowledge base up as they roll out new products. The next thing you got to do to be a Palantir shareholder, in my opinion, is to have a long-term outlook. Palantir is not a company that cares at all about the short term. Palantir makes it super clear that they are heavily focused on the next thing that's going to happen, not necessarily what's happening today. They talk all the time how they've been building these products for 20 years, and they've been building for the future, and they're going to continue building for the future. If we have a company that's continually building for the future, we're not necessarily going to unlock all shareholder value today. We're not going to unlock all shareholder value next year, but that shareholder value is going to be unlocked over a very long period of time. So if you don't have a long-term outlook with Palantir, you're probably going to not make that much money. You might be dead weight the whole time you own the stock. Companies that are heavily focused on the future, it's not uncommon to see them stabilize at a specific stock price for months, for quarters, and sometimes for full years before we start to see the compound effects of their efforts start to play out. And then there's a massive run up, and then we stabilize again. And then there's a massive run up, and we stabilize again. This happens over and over and over again with companies like Tesla, with companies like NVIDIA, with companies like Amazon. These are very forward-looking companies, very future-focused companies, worried about the next problem that needs to be solved. They're on the cutting edge of innovation, and that means they might have to put their growth in a weak spot in the short term to make their growth in the long term be insanely massive like they want it to be. So if you don't have a pretty dang long outlook, maybe like 5 years or 10 years, I don't think it's a good idea to be a Palantir shareholder because you're probably going to be really underwhelmed with the return that you get. And then the last one is you got to make sure that Palantir fits your risk profile. A lot of people that bought at the $20 range, they didn't really think about, okay, Palantir is a really volatile company. It's a really high beta company, which means I could absolutely lose my butt in the short term. There were times where I was down thousands and thousands of dollars on Palantir stock. There were times where I was down in the 30% range on my shares because I understood how crazy of a high beta stock this is, because I have a very long-term outlook, and because I was knowledgeable on the company and I was happy with where the valuation was. I didn't freak out whenever the stock dropped in that massive way. It was like so low, like in the $6 range. So Palantir is not for everybody. If you're not going to be knowledgeable about the business, if you don't have a long-term outlook, and if you're not okay with the risk profile, don't buy Palantir stock. You don't have to have exposure to the stock. You can like the company, you can like their vision, but if you don't like the stock, don't own the stock. I don't own NVIDIA shares. I wanted to own NVIDIA shares, but I've never liked the valuation. In retrospect, should I have bought NVIDIA shares whenever I wanted to at the end of 2022? Yes, I would have made stupid money, but I didn't fully understand the business model. I didn't love the valuation, so I did not buy the stock, and I'm not mad because of it. Sure, I missed out on some money, but probably wouldn't have been able to even benefit from the massive upside, because since I don't really understand the business all that well and I can't wrap my head around it, maybe I'm just too stupid, then I didn't see why the company could ever hit $500. I couldn't figure that out in my head. So what would make me hold once the company hits $400? I probably would have just sold early anyway. I hope this video helps someone out there who's considering buying Palantir shares. If this video made you not buy Palantir, full respect. If this video made you want to buy Palantir, full respect to you. It doesn't matter to me what you do. I just want you to make the best decision for your current situation and your portfolio. So let me know what you're doing in the comments. Are you staying away from Palantir? Are you buying Palantir? Do you think it's the greatest stock ever? Do you think it's a trash stock? Or do you like the company, but you're staying on the sideline because you don't want to do the research work in order to figure out the moat around the business? I want to hear about it. Let me know in the comments. I appreciate you being here, and have a great day.